3 o'clock. I will now call the Tuesday, August 4th, 2026 Environmental Resources Committee to order. We will start with, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before I start the public comment, I just have one quick announcement for everybody. This afternoon, the city of Marshfield voluntarily withdrew the request to rezone from rural estate to general agriculture. This withdrawal is due to Marathon County's solar ordinance being more restrictive than state law, which does not permit counties to require a rezone for solar projects. The determination provided from Corporation Counsel will be modified into the packet for your review. This item is removed from the agenda. Now we will move on to public comment. We can start with Daniel Barth, please.
Hi there.
If you will, please state your name and municipality, please.
I will.
There we go.
Okay. Dan Barth, Town of Knowlton, 206540 Raybick Lane. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I speak in favor of the moratorium that you're proposing on hyperscale data centers. These centers are way too thirsty for our precious waters and way too hungry for our increasingly inadequate supply of electricity. I'm pretty sure that if we asked an honest AI concerned about the quality of our environment and the life of our people about building them, it would advise a loud no, and I advise the same. So, but I also speak strongly in favor of commercial solar and wind energy in our county. I raised my first garden in 1974 in central Portage County. Back then, the first killing frost came like clockwork the first weekend in September. Beans, tomatoes, squash, peppers were done for. In the late 80s, that began to change as the first frost began to move gradually later and later into September. I now live about 40 miles north of where I used to in Portage County here in Marathon County. And now the first killing frost is very likely to come in October. Now in only 40 years that's taken place. If our climate has changed that much in the last 40 years, look, we all have children and grandchildren. What will their world be like 40 years from now? And that's my main concern. I concluded years ago that we need to move rapidly away from fossil fuels to renewable energy for the sake of our children and our grandchildren and theirs. These are all folks that we love dearly. We need to do so for the sake of the climate they will face. This much I know about wind and solar. We have solar panels on our house and drive electric cars. And I can tell you, we've been doing it for the last 10 years and it works great. I don't mind waving at the gas station every time we go by. But renewable energy is the cheapest, fastest way to add much needed energy to our grid. It is also the cleanest by far.
30 seconds.
And as a source, it is free and none of it flows through the Strait of Hormuz. I support your attempt at changing your zoning, and I thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kathy Conley Barth. Please state your name and municipality, please.
Kathy Conley Barth, 206540 Rabic Lane, Mosinee, 54455.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for having us here to speak about our feelings and opinions. There are two issues that we are addressing in today's Marathon County agenda: a possible moratorium on data centers and a proposed wind farm, the Hub City Wind Farm. Data centers use enormous amounts of water and energy. Much of Marathon County is in a drought. And to commit to supplying water to data centers risks having too little water for agriculture and residential uses. Data shows that more than 3/4 of people in a number of surveys are concerned about climate change, but most think their neighbors don't agree. To allow large energy users, including cryptocurrency and data users, to pour more greenhouse gases into our atmosphere is full of risk. You look at the number of deaths in Europe this summer, it's astounding. And the fires that we have surrounding the United States and our Canadian neighbors also. The Public Service Commission shouldn't be charging residential customers, especially those with limited means and fixed incomes, for the costs of large corporations and the hyperscale data centers. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Jean Abreu.
Good afternoon. My name is Jean Abreu. I live at 1233 Jackson Street in Wausau. And I wanted to express my support for the zoning code amendment that would create a moratorium on the data centers in our county, as it will give us time to study this issue and create policy that will protect our natural resources and keep our community in the driver's seat. I'd also like to express my support concerning commercial scale renewable energy in Marathon County, but also I am in favor of agreements between the developer and the county so that legitimate concerns in our community can be addressed. Renewable energy projects will create an important form of diversity concerning energy production, and diversity is a key component of stability. Diversity means we're not dependent on just one way of getting our energy. According to the U.S. Energy Information Association, Wisconsin currently spends between $850 million to $1 billion importing coal to fuel our power plants. Rather than sending all of those energy dollars out of state, why not invest some of those dollars in renewable energies, which keep our money here and will save us money in the long run? The county could also require that any solar installation have what's called dual solar, which involves working with the landowner to create grazable or wildlife supporting use of the installation land. So renewable energy is a way to diversify our energy source while positively impacting both the environment and our pocketbooks. And so this is why I support a commercial scale renewable energy project that could be completed under the purview of the county board. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, next up, Jonathan Smith, please. You're online? Jonathan, are you there?
Hey, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Please state your name and municipality, please.
Jonathan Smith, Wausau, Wisconsin. I am speaking in favor of a data center moratorium and also speaking strongly in favor of solar and wind projects, as well as battery storage is also a part of it. National polling indicates that 70% of folks oppose data center construction, and per this committee and the strategic plan and goals here of promoting sound use decisions that conserve and preserve natural resources, and objective 6.3 of protecting and enhancing the quality and quantity of potable groundwater and potable surface water supplies. A moratorium will give you and this committee, as well as our county and our cities and our towns, the ability and time to put together regulations that protect our most important resources, which are our natural resources, protecting our groundwater. No economic development will be able to clean up the damage that could be caused by the large scale projects of these. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next up, online as well, Nikki, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Nikki Cottrell from Brighton Township.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon. I appreciate that today's agenda focuses on temporary moratoriums and ordinance updates for large-scale development. While Hub City Wind Farm is not specifically on the agenda, I believe the principles that you're discussing today apply directly to industrial scale wind development as well. The question before this committee isn't simply about one project, but it's whether Marathon County's ordinance adequately protects our natural resources before irreversible development can take place. At our last meeting, I referenced the work of Dr. Jerry Punch's acoustic assessment because it illustrates an important point, that research presented by project applicants or the energy industry does not always tell the whole story. Independent researchers have at times reached different conclusions that challenge industry claims, demonstrating why it's important to look beyond applicant-supported studies when evaluating projects of this magnitude. Because this can and does create discrepancy, and because the decisions being made will permanently change our landscape, I believe the responsible response is to pause, gather the best available independent information, and ensure our regulations are adequate before moving forward. Beyond acoustics, Marathon County contains productive farmland, forests, wetlands, streams, and important wildlife habitat. Industrial scale wind development has the potential to fragment these landscapes through turbine foundations, access roads, transmission corridors, substations, and other supporting infrastructure. Those changes can affect wildlife movement and ecological connectivity long after construction is complete as new projects move in. Combined with potential impacts to migratory birds, cranes, eagles, and so on, these cumulative environmental effects deserve careful, independent evaluation before additional projects are approved. That's why today's discussion about moratoriums and ordinance updates is so important. A temporary moratorium is not a rejection of renewable energy. It's a planning tool that allows Marathon County to determine whether its ordinances reflect today's industrial scale facilities, not the ones of 20 years ago, and whether they adequately protect residents, wildlife, and natural resources. Once roads are built, foundations poured, and turbines operating, there's no practical way to reverse course. If we later discover that our ordinances were inadequate or our environmental impacts were underestimated, it's far easier to spend time strengthening our regulations now than to spend decades living with decisions that we cannot undo. As members of the ERC, your role is to help safeguard the natural resources that
30 seconds.
What's that?
30 seconds.
I respectfully ask this committee to place industrial scale wind development on a future agenda and recommend that the county board adopt a temporary moratorium while Marathon County reviews its ordinances, evaluates cumulative environmental impacts, and seeks independent scientific expertise, not solely information prepared by project applicants or organizations with a financial interest in the outcome. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. Jay Caldwell, did you want to speak now or during the public hearing? Okay. Come on up to the mic.
Hi, I'm Jay Caldwell from City of Wausau. Thanks for this opportunity. I want to speak in favor of the data center moratorium. People don't need data centers. Billionaires need data centers to control us. So I know what side I end up on that. I also speak in favor of the outline of the battery energy storage systems ordinance change. However, it's just like the large electric generating facilities ordinance. These can be used to put systems in responsibly, or they can be used to undermine development. And I would hope that we can go forward with development on both of these to increase the resilience of our power grid. Resilience is going to be more and more important as time goes on, as the heat goes up, as fuel sources get more difficult, and as power demands go up. I just want to spend a little bit more time on the large electric generating facilities. As we build up power, recognize that current power sources damage our communities, contribute to health problems, respiratory issues, heart disease, premature deaths. Methane gas can lead to methane leaks, causing health problems and global heating. Coal-fired power plants eject mercury into the atmosphere, and that's the reason that we can only eat one walleye a week, because that mercury comes from the coal-fired power plants. And every ton of greenhouse gases we emit degrades the habitat that we depend on. Change is happening so quickly that we can't adjust. The world's forests are burning right now. According to the 5th National Climate Assessment, northern Wisconsin and the UP are at increasing risk for wildfire as global temperatures rise. Within the next decade, the smoke we see in Wausau may likely come from the UP or Minocqua. This year's forecast for U.S. wheat production is projected to be the smallest in decades, with a total of 1.5 billion bushels, down 20% from the previous year, and the lowest since 1972. Hard red winter wheat is expected to have its lowest output since 1957, the year I was born, and I'm ancient. Britain and much of Europe are experiencing crop failures and have to import food they would normally be able to grow. Coral reefs and fisheries are collapsing. Less rich nations will simply experience
30
famine
seconds.
and migration. All this from global heating caused by greenhouse gases. If we have the opportunity to not burn some of those fuels, let's do it.
Okay, thank you. All right, everybody else that signed up has chosen to speak during the public hearing. And just for the viewing audience, just for clarification, the way this will work, during the public hearing on each item on the agenda, I will be asking, is there anybody that wants to speak for, against, or as interested in that item? That will be your time to speak, either for, against, or as interested on that subject. And in an effort for the length of the meeting, I will allow 3 minutes per comment during the public hearing as well. So then we'll move on to item 4, the approval of both the June 30, 2026 and the July 23, 2026 committee minutes, which were in your packet. Supervisor Drabek with the motion, Supervisor Shaneborn with the second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Item number 5, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, or resolution. First, I'm going to ask everybody to please mute your phone to avoid interruptions. The Marathon County Environmental Resources Committee is now meeting in public hearing on the location, plans, and specifications and purpose of the following projects. 5A1, Jason Flieger on behalf of Jay Good, Farmland Preservation to Rural Estate and General Agriculture in the town of Brighton. Number 2, Tim Vreeland on behalf of Noah Weinke, General Agriculture to Rural Residential in the town of Gunther. Item 3 has been struck. Item 4, Marathon County Conservation Planning and Zoning text amendment changes to the Chapter 17 zoning code related to battery energy storage systems. Item 5, Marathon County Conservation Planning and Zoning text amendment changes to Chapter 17 zoning code related to moratorium on data centers. And item number 6, Marathon County Conservation Planning and Zoning text amendment changes to Chapter 17 zoning code related to large energy generating facilities. Now I'd like to introduce the members of the committee. I am Supervisor Mike Ritter. Next to me is our Vice Chair, Supervisor Lemmer. Then we have Supervisor DeBrew, Supervisor Shaneborn, Supervisor Ensign. We have Supervisor Drabeck and Supervisor Kurth. We have Eric Vogel, who is our farm representative, and Marilyn Bend, who is our town's representative. Also present, our staff, we have Lori Miskimmons, the Director of Conservation Planning and Zoning. We have Kirsty Heidenreich is here. She's our County Conservationist. Shad Harvey, our Land Resources Manager, and Garrett Poggle, the Land Use Specialist. The establishment of the ERC Committee is required by law for purposes of administration of county ordinances and land conservation programs. This committee must follow state laws and local ordinances as written. The committee cannot change or ignore any part of the ordinances or state laws, but must apply the laws as written. The purpose of this committee is to hear and decide on proposed ordinances and ordinance revisions, rezoning petitions, and provide direction on land conservation and planning programs. The ERC committee will give a fair and full and fair hearing to any person applying for a rezone petition. A taped recording is being made of the meeting, which will assist with preparation of written hearing minutes. The committee is interested in hearing all pertinent comments and questions. Each hearing will be open by reading the public notice and allowing staff to present a staff report, including evidence from any on-site inspection. The applicant and anyone wishing to testify will be sworn in and allowed to give testimony. Witnesses will be called in the order of those: first in favor, second opposed, and then third as interested may appear. The committee may ask questions of the zoning staff and applicant. It is necessary that we set a reasonable time limit on individual statements and on the overall length of the hearing. To promote orderly discussion, anyone wishing to present oral testimony or ask questions relating to the hearing should state your name, present your testimony or question so it becomes part of the official record. We request you avoid repetition. Once the committee has all the necessary facts, the chairman will close the hearing, allowing no further testimony, and the committee will deliberate and decide in front of the public whether the applicant has met the standards in the ordinance. No additional testimony from the public is allowed during the deliberation. However, the committee may question staff for purposes of clarification. After a decision is made, the committee will proceed to the next hearing. Many of the decisions made by the committee are a recommendation to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, who will take up the matter at a future county board meeting. Contact staff for more information regarding this county board process. The committee will now hear the application of 5A1, Jason Flieger, on behalf of Jay Good Farmland Preservation to rural estate and general agriculture in the town of Brighton. Garrett, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right.
All right, this is for Jay Good, petitioner rezone land. Staff report August 4th, 2026 for the Environmental Resources Committee. The petitioner is Jason Flieger, located at 163-957 Owl Ridge Road, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54403. Property owner is Jay Good at 110367 Würzburg Road, Athens, Wisconsin, 54411. Area proposed to be rezoned is located at the intersection of State Highway 153 and County Road F. The petition of Jason Flieger on behalf of Jay Good to amend the General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County, Chapter 17 Zoning Code to rezone lands from FP Farmland Preservation to RE Real Estate and GA General Agriculture, located in part of the southwest quarter of Section 23, Township 27 North, Range 2 East, Town of Brighton. Area proposed to be rezoned to RE Real Estate is described as Lot 1, and area proposed to be rezoned to GA General Agriculture described as Lot 2 of the preliminary CSM. Parent parcel number as listed. The Town of Brighton Town Board met on June 12th, 2026. Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee is meeting today, August 4th, 2026 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. The town of Brighton participates in farmland preservation. Approximately 32.68 acres will be converted to general agriculture and 5 acres to rural estate. Approximately 98.8% of the town of Brighton's planned farmland preservation area will be zoned farmland preservation and remain in compliance if this rezone is approved. On June 12th, 2026, town of Brighton recommended approval to Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee. Staff recommendation, the rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan and as indicated by a town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resources Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
All right, anybody have any questions or comments for Garrett? Supervisor Draybeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering, on the rural estate, are all churches rural estate, or how does that work? Because I don't see anything on here about churches. I'm just wondering.
No. So in the zoning code, we have our table of uses. It's table 3, and it depicts what uses are permitted in what districts. The one of the parcel size they wanted to go with as the applicant was 5 acres. Once you hit the 5 acre threshold, anything between 5 acres and 9.99, you can rezone it to rural estate. Having a church in rural estate is a permitted use, so once it would be rezoned, there's no other permitting besides the general building itself. It doesn't have to do conditional use or anything else like that.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you. I will now ask, is there anybody that would like to speak for item 5A1? Once again, anybody in the room or online that would like to speak for item 5A1? Is there anybody that would like to speak against item 5A1? Once again, is there anybody who would like to speak against item 5A1? I will call once. Is there anybody who would like to speak as interested in item 5A1? All right, hearing none, I will declare this hearing closed and the committee will deliberate. What are your wishes? Supervisor Draybeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I make a motion to approve the rezone of J. Good from farmland preservation to rural estate and general agriculture based on the finding of fact as presented by staff, conclusions of law, and the town's approval.
Okay, Supervisor Draybeck with the motion to approve. Do I have a second? Supervisor Kurth with the second. Any further discussion on this? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. We will move on to item 5A2. Tim Vreeland on behalf of Noah Weinke, General Agriculture to Rural Residential in the town of Gunther.
All right, this is for Noah Weinke, petition to rezone land, staff report August 4th, 2026 for the Environmental Resources Committee. The petitioner is Tim Vreeland, located at 6103 Dawn Street, Weston, Wisconsin, 54476. Property owner is Noah Weinke at 157-107 Duberstein Road, Mosinee, Wisconsin, 54455. Area proposed to be rezoned is located at the corner of Duberstein Road and Wiz Road. The petition of Tim Vreeland on behalf of Noah Weinke to amend the General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone lands from GA General Agriculture to RR Rural Residential as described as part of Lot 1 of CSM 19018, document number 1841669, located in the northwest quarter of Section 8, Township 26 North, Range 8 East, Town of Gunther. Area proposed to be rezoned to RR Rural Residential is described as Lot 1 of the preliminary CSM, parent parcel number as listed. The Town of Gunther Town Board met on July 13th, 2026. Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee is meeting today, August 4th, 2026 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of a zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. On July 13th, 2026, the Town of Gunther Town Board recommended approval to Marathon County Environmental Resources Committee. Staff recommendation, the rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan and as indicated by town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resources Committee recommend approval to Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
Okay, any questions for Garrett on this one? Supervisor Drabek?
Thank you. Just a curiosity, on the resolution that the town sent to us, they didn't write anything on any of the questions that I have here. Is there, that would be on page 30. Did anybody call them and ask why they did not do that, or? Just curious.
I do not believe so. If that's something that the committee would like us to do, we could, you could recommend postponing it, and then we could reach back out to the town and see that this is filled out correctly.
Is there any problem with doing it? I mean, they already approved it.
Right. It's up to the committee whether they'd like them to go back and do it. Typically, what is required is that they fill out the resolution completely, stating their reasons for approval or denial, whichever they so choose. So that
I just
would
would
be
hate
up
to
to
set a precedence that nobody fills these out anymore. That's all I'm thinking, but.
Right, I would agree, and I think as far as, that would give us proper documentation as well, if should something come up down the road.
Okay.
So, does everybody agree we send it back to the town? All right, if we could do that, please, that'd be great.
Perfect.
Okay, so then we'll move on to item 5A4.
Chair Ritter.
Yep.
Oh, I believe the public hearing still has to be closed on that one.
It still does, okay, so we ask if anybody wants to speak.
Yeah, I guess, and
Well, if it's postponed,
so we're just trying to confirm, so the committee just discussed sending the rezone back to the town of Gunther because they didn't finish their resolution. So we're just trying to figure out if the public hearing has to be closed or if they should finish the public hearing and then make a determination after, and then their determination would send it back.
I think their determination would be the one that sends it back. They can take the comments if there's any.
Okay. So then it would just run like a normal rezone until you got to the determination point, and then you guys would, if the board chose to make a motion to send it back to the town.
okay, that makes sense. Everybody kind of clear on that? Okay, so if there's no further comment from the committee, I will ask, is there anybody that would like to speak for item 5A2? One more time, would anybody like to speak for item 5A2? I'll call once. Does anybody like to speak against item 5A2? And I'll call once again. Is there anybody who would like to speak as interested in 5A2? Hearing none, I will declare this hearing closed. And if somebody would like to make a motion to send it back to the towns, I think that would be the proper Supervisor Shaneborn.
I will make a motion to send the information back to the town of Gunther for proper procedures for them to take a look at and readdress it at the next ERC.
Okay, Supervisor Shaneborn with the motion to send this back to the town to fill out the paperwork and put it on a future agenda. And Supervisor Kurth mentioned he would second that motion. Any further discussion on this? All right. Anybody, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. Now we can move on to item 5A4, Marathon County Conservation Planning and Zoning text amendment changes to the Chapter 17 zoning code related to battery energy storage systems. We have Shad. Shad, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. All right, so the first Chapter 17 amendment, the battery, related to battery energy storage, just as a reminder to the committee, we already do have a battery energy storage ordinance in our zoning code. We were As we were developing that, battery energy storage are relatively new, and other communities have come out with battery energy storage ordinances. So the idea was to incorporate some of the things we've learned to strengthen our ordinance. I just wanted to go through some of the outreach efforts that were taken to try and get input for this. The June 2nd and June 30th ERC meetings offered an opportunity for public comment. June 15th, 2026, the materials and we sent materials to all of the 18 county zone towns to try and get their feedback. The week of July 20th, reminder calls were made to all county zone towns regarding the requested feedback. July 22nd, a reminder on the review and input process for battery energy storage systems were shared at the Towns Association meeting. July 23rd, a public announcement was made at the county board meeting informing supervisors on how to review the draft amendments. And then the public hearing notices. So for these public hearings, we did have to send out a public hearing notice for today's meeting. The other thing, just kind of to get to the comments that were related to this, and then we'll get into the ordinance. So you guys are aware we did receive one other comment form from the town of Marathon. We received it this morning. It is in front of you as one of those supplied. That comment sheet has reference to all three amendments will go out today. We sent out one form with multiple comments on it, but for the purposes of this one, just focus on the battery energy storage or the best section. As directed by ERC, we did send it to the towns to gather their feedback. 4 of the 6, so we only received 6 responses, 7 including the town of Marathon back from our county zone towns. 4 of the 6 responses were supportive of the amendments and 2 provided additional comments. These comments are included in your packet for you guys. So you guys had a chance to review those. And again, Marathon's is in front of you currently. So just kind of to go over briefly what our battery energy storage updates were. Again, this was an update to an existing ordinance. However, we've seen multiple communities put in requirements such as a hazard mitigation analysis, emergency response plans, and our original ordinance had a lot of these similar requirements. This just kind of clarifies what we're actually looking for and strengthens it. The other item we put in there was to clarify only 1 battery energy storage per parcel. We didn't want to run into a situation where for private battery energy storage, we have a limit on, a number. So you can't have, if somebody was saying you can have up to a 1 megawatt system for a private system, but if you start adding 2 systems, now you have 2 megawatts. We wanted to make sure that it was only specified as 1 battery energy storage per parcel. Safety and security, our original ordinance essentially just said they had to have a minimum of 7 feet or have a max fence height of 10 feet. It didn't give a minimum. We did put a minimum of 7 feet in there, and that essentially comes from some of the regulations regarding utilities, just to make sure the site is secure and protected. We added several things in regarding emergency response plan, most notably first responder training and equipment. This would require the owner or developer of that system for commercial systems to provide that training to local first responders, as well as make sure they have the proper equipment to handle the emergencies on site. And then it also addresses emergency response cost. If there is an emergency with the battery energy storage, it clarifies that the system owner is the one responsible for those costs. We did add some monitoring and operational safety to make sure that those systems are capable of being monitored 24/7. So we can make sure that any emergency that does happen on there can be addressed quickly. And then under decommissioning, we did just clarify a few things with decommissioning, making the reasons for when decommissioning should happen, and then addressed a little bit more in depth the steps and the plan, decommissioning plans. Those are the main amendments we put in there. The financial assurance section, we kept all the same. I would be happy to address any questions should the committee have them.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions for Shad on this? Supervisor Drabek?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering on, basically, there's a road going back to these battery systems or whatever, that they would be required to keep the roads plowed during the winter, stuff like that. Is there anything in here about that, or did I just miss it? And also, if there's storms and trees fall on the road, whatever, you know, that emergency vehicles could get there is what I'm trying to suggest.
Yeah, specifically, it doesn't address those scenarios specifically. However, that could be something with the emergency response plan that they have to work with the local EMS and responders, that could be addressed during that plan to make sure there's a plan if there is debris on the road or in the wintertime if it needs to be plowed.
All right, Supervisor Gao.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a few questions. I did some research on it. I assume these are for smaller units of storage batteries in the county.
So this actual ordinance addresses private, which would be the smaller ones, but it also would address the commercial or the larger ones.
Okay, and second, this only covers the towns that have control by the county. If we go forward with this, how do we act with towns that do not have county zoning? Do we have a relationship that they may want to look at it or have a look at mirroring our ordinance if it's passed?
As far as this, you're absolutely correct. This only applies in the 18 county zone towns that are under county zoning. If we're more than willing to share our ordinance with the other townships if they want to get something in place or talk with them. But it would be their responsibility to get those ordinances in place. Again, we're a resource for every town in Marathon County. So if they have a question or something that we can help with, we're definitely willing to do so.
Go ahead, Supervisor.
Third question, I noticed it's a conditional use permit. It's not permitted portion. And basically any requirements of a conditional use permit, some of the issues that are brought up in the safety portion, that would be part of your requirements as a conditional use permit?
So yes, as a conditional use permit, they have to meet the standards here. And then one of the benefits of conditional use permits are if there are any local concerns, they can bring those concerns forth at the Board of Adjustment hearing, which is the board that hears those conditional use, and the board can put reasonable conditions to try and address those concerns. So back to Supervisor Drabek's question, if there was a concern about roads being plowed or that could be brought up at the Board of Adjustment meeting, and theoretically the board could choose to put a condition on to make sure roads are plowed.
Thank you, Chair.
All right.
Mayor, I have a comment. For the towns that are not zoned, would they be able to use your ordinance as a draft for their ordinance? And then they would enforce it?
They can definitely look at our ordinance and see if they like it and see if it would be something that they'd want to implement in their town. There's likely probably going to be some amendment they'd have to make to it just to make it fit within their ordinance if they have one. But yeah, absolutely, they can use it as a reference.
Okay, anybody else? Supervisor, Lemmer, sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question about decommissioning. A public commenter during our task force that we had expressed concern about leaving projects standing, and there's really nothing in here aside from the developer is responsible for the removal of the project. Can we, I don't know, require receipts, so to speak, and expect proof, I guess, that it has been responsibly disposed of? I would imagine some of these batteries have very technical chemicals and other substances that need to be disposed of properly, and we certainly wouldn't want to find a pile of them buried in a woods somewhere. So is that something we can ask for?
There are a lot of different regulations associated with recycling and disposal. The only part that's giving me a bit of pause is the logistics of that and making sure that they're already going to be responsible to dispose of it properly. I don't know a very efficient way that we would be able to track all of that waste. However, that would be one of those things where if it was in their decommissioning plan that was stated, all batteries will be disposed and recycled of properly. That is the plan they submitted to us, and if we found out otherwise, we could take action that way. I'm not sure on the logistics of tracking every single product and where it ended up. I think that might end up being a very difficult task. Because with a lot of disposal sites, even, it'll go to a transfer site, then it goes to a different one. So we may never even know, or it would take a lot of work to get to where it actually ended up.
Supervisor Gao.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Following up from Supervisor Lammer's question. Yeah, if you do have a decommissioning piece in there, and that's also can be very drafted out in your conditional use permit, what they need to do and can do. The question I have is there a process that we can put in the code similar to other securities that they follow through and do that? And it's a financial security portion. I don't think we have that in there at this time.
So it does, our ordinance does have a financial assurance for commercial battery energy storage. So they would be responsible for the commercial sites to put in place financial assurance in the event that that operator was unable to decommission it. So the county would have funds to do that.
Follow up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we'd make sure that be part of our conditional use permit, having that in our agreement with the developer, right?
Yeah, that's an actual standard that they would have to meet to get that conditional use permit.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, anybody else? Questions? All right, thanks, Shad. Now, I will ask, is there anybody in the room or online that would like to speak in favor of item 5A4 pertaining to the battery energy storage systems? Once again, is there anybody in the room or online that would like to speak in favor of the battery energy storage systems zoning code change? Is there anybody that would like to speak against item 5A4? One more time, is there anybody that would like to speak against item 5A4 pertaining to battery energy storage systems? I'll call once. Is there anybody that would like to speak as interested in item 5A4?
Yes.
Please step to the mic. Please state your name and then raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right.
Dean Beck, Town of Easton Chairman in Eastern Marathon County, on the battery storage. I was listening to people and they're all for the solar. Just for their information, they're proposing putting 100 megawatt in our town, which will gobble up 1,000 acres of our prime farmland for a 100 megawatt unit. Then if they bring battery storage in, we have a volunteer fire department. As town chairman, it's my job to provide public safety. I want to ask this committee and the zoning, where are we going to get the water from? A lithium battery is almost impossible to put out. Obviously, you'll have to try and control it from spreading. We have limited water. We have ponds. We have an integrated system between the towns to supply water. We're a volunteer fire department. I don't care how much first responder training they give us. If one of these happen, it will use every bit of our resources we have. And now we're asking our volunteer firefighters to leave their paying jobs to come and get paid $15 a day to fight this battery fire. And I want to know who's going to clean up the ground afterwards and when it leaches into the groundwater. That is my concerns I have, both with the solar panels gobbling up our prime farmland and the battery storage potentially polluting or causing unnecessary burden. I don't know how we can put it in our under this, that our fire department, and I'm not using all my resources for one thing, and then what happens when we have a fire someplace else? That's my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak as interested in item 5A4? Why don't you please step up to the mic? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and...
My name is Heidi Pesky. I'm in the town of McMillan, and just interested in question-wise, did you really evaluate the setbacks for these batteries? And then if they are, and I could be maybe misunderstanding, but it seems to me that 100 feet or 200 feet is very, very minimal compared to what if these things do start on fire. If you're downwind from this, be it a resident, a church, a school, whatever, it seems very damaging, especially considering all of what we have seen in the rest of the United States. When there were these battery fires, it seems very as a health issue, a huge health issue, and I just wanted to know if that was taken in concern. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Please step up to the mic. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth? Please raise your right hand.
I affirm.
You affirm?
I affirm.
Okay. And please state your name again.
Kathy Conley Barth.
All right, go ahead.
Some of the questions that I had were answered by the people who were reporting. One of the questions I had was about 1 megawatt maximum. I know that in New Mexico, they've gone, I think it may have been 4 years, they've gone from 80% fossil fuel energy to 80% renewables, and battery storage is a big part of that. I'm wondering, could you confirm again for me? I'm not sure I got it correct if you said the 1 megawatt was a maximum. And I don't know whether in other battery storage, not just the residential, but maybe a larger battery storage proposal, would that be larger than the 1 megawatt? So that's a question. Should I continue?
Go ahead and answer.
Okay.
The 1 megawatt was just a maximum for private, like if you were going to have a house or a business that used that battery energy storage to power that facility on site. The commercial ones, any system that's used to generate power off-site or send power off-site or is over 1 megawatt would be considered the commercial system, which has that longer list of standards to meet. So the only one that's limited by size is that private battery energy storage for like businesses or homes.
In terms of safety, I'm also concerned about the issues that we're facing going forward with climate change. So I think we have to weigh it in connection with those. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak as interested in item 5A4? Okay, I will declare this hearing closed, and the committee will now deliberate. Supervisor Gallo?
Thank you, Chair. For clarification, I heard about the town of Harrison, and I understand that this does not cover that size of battery storage. This ordinance does not cover that size of battery storage, and that would be considered much higher, 100 megawatts, so it'd be much larger, and it would be covered by the Public Service Commission and his concerns, correct?
For clarification, right?
For the town of Harrison you're referencing?
Yeah, the report was, the public hearing indicated that he brought up the storage batteries for a larger solar farm and the safety in the water, et cetera. That would actually be addressed by the Public Service Commission. And if the county wanted to make any comments or a portion of that, could be on a JDA. And also at that point, the county has the opportunity to intervene, but that'll be basically those are questions that come back to the other ordinance that we have in place.
Yeah, so the town of Easton was referencing solar, that's all right, solar facility. And if a battery energy storage is proposed with a system that's over 100 megawatts, you are correct, it would go to the Public Service Commission and could be covered under their CPCN. You're welcome.
Supervisor Drabek.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering what the setbacks are by the PSC. What do they say? Just 200 feet or just what is it?
To be quite honest with you, I am not sure what the PSC, if they have requirements for battery energy storage systems. I know the ones that we put in our ordinance, they're what we commonly seen in battery energy storage ordinances, the ones that we use for reference. But as far as what the PSC has in place, whether they have setbacks like they do for wind, I know solar doesn't have the same setbacks, so I'm assuming battery energy storage will be similar. They may take other factors in place when they decide where to place those.
All right, anybody else? Supervisor Lammer.
Okay, I'm not really skilled in all of this, but talking about those setbacks, how do these structures compare to something like an electrical substation? Or I think today the Parks Department just talked about a natural gas regulator station. How do these compare as far as with setbacks and safety and training and, things like that? And is this policy different? Are they the same or should they be the same? How do we, compare all of these?
That is a great question, and I'm definitely not an expert in utilities. What I would say is
Do we regulate those, though? Would we, if, with the parks looking at a substation or a natural gas regulator station, do we have ordinance then that would regulate how that is, or is that superseded by WPS because we're giving them land?
There is permitting authority in our zoning code for utilities. That being said, just like any utility, we don't always have the same ability to just say no to them. In this case with battery energy storage, this is not just intended to cover utilities. It's intended to cover businesses that want them, or if there's a third party that's operating them. So it's trying to account for all of that. As far as just kind of a reference, and obviously as technology changes, just so the committee's aware, just to give you a size example, from the research that we did, the size of a 1 megawatt battery energy storage is about the size of a normal shipping container that you see. So that's just to give you a perspective. So when you're talking about a commercial system that's 100 megawatts, it's quite large. Imagine 100 shipping containers in an area, which is why we want to have things in place, to help guide some of those safety responses and make sure the towns that this is under are as protected as we can protect them. In the absence of it, there's an argument to say that it's an accessory use to whether it's a business or it's an accessory use to a utility. If the standards aren't laid out, they could be put in place without us having much say at all, which is the intent of having the ordinance in place so we can better control some of the safety aspects.
Well, and to be clear, I'm not saying we should or shouldn't do it. I'm just thinking it would make sense to make the policy similar if the safety and the training and things are similar. And if we already had something on the books to compare it with, it would make sense to try and equalize those if possible. But I just don't know if these things are similar or not.
Yeah, I will say this is quite a bit more in depth than our normal utility. They are regulated heavily in other areas utilities are. But this goes quite a bit more in depth than what our public utility permitting authority would allow us to, so.
Okay, Marilyn?
How strict are the state restrictions?
Right now, I know we've talked quite a bit in this committee about wind and solar and the restrictions on those. Right now, there's not as many restrictions on battery energy storage. There was some proposed language that was going through the state that would include the same restrictions on battery energy storage that are currently on wind and solar. That did not pass as of yet. So right now we do have the ability to regulate a little bit more on these. Again, with the caveat that if it's tied to a system that's over 100 megawatts that's under PSC jurisdiction already, this ordinance likely wouldn't apply to those.
Okay, Supervisor Lemmer, one more?
Yeah, I was just thinking, with the town of Easton saying that there's a solar field or solar project going in, and then maybe possibly one of these coming in. I don't see anything in here on the buses about, things like light, noise, other air, water pollution, but if there is something in the ordinance, is it possible to have them looked at cumulatively so that we're not separately looking at, noise of the battery storage from, I don't know if a solar array has noise with it, but let's just say it does, to make sure that there's a cumulative measure instead of two separate ones that might not get flagged as having double nuisance.
So one, again, just to reiterate this, if it's with a system that's over 100 megawatts, they're likely going to go through the PSC for permitting. But for argument's sake, let's say it's a smaller system with a battery energy storage that's under the county's jurisdiction. That could be something, a point that's brought up at the Board of Adjustment during the conditional use permitting, where somebody would say, the noise aspect of A plus B, can there be something that be put in place that would help mitigate that? But specifically in here right now, no, there's nothing that mandates that. But it is something the Board of Adjustment could consider with their conditional use permit.
Okay, Supervisor Gao?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. The setbacks that we have in an ordinance right now, those were the existing setbacks, correct? They're not?
Yes, these are the existing setbacks that we had in the original that we placed in our ordinance during the comprehensive update.
What criteria or where did you get the distances that you established? Was there criteria that you picked up on just doing your research? And basically that is what you consider setbacks for a certain size? In other words, is it larger setback for a higher megawatt than 1 megawatt?
So this is just setbacks for commercial. So to your point, whether it's a commercial system of 100 megawatts or 99 megawatts or 1 megawatt, right?
Yes.
These are the setbacks that would apply. That would be the edge of the system. These are just the setbacks that we had found were very common. It doesn't mean that other setbacks couldn't be proposed or potentially the Board of Adjustments could ask for increased setbacks. However, it gets a little bit more complicated because these are the listed setbacks if the Board of Adjustment asks.
In my experience, could does not work in a conditional use permit. You either have to have it in your ordinance or not. And the question I have is that you're talking about 1 megawatt, then you say commercial, we're not identifying the maximum amount of megawatts in a commercial, are we or are we not?
We're not.
No, so therefore you're going to get a commercial one that could be 5 megawatts, for example, or even 50 megawatts. I'm concerned if we have that larger one, if it's permitted by a conditional use by the county, I'm concerned that the setbacks that we're allowing for 1 megawatt is too small for a larger megawatt. Very much that Supervisor Lemmer has been bringing up and other people are bringing up of what kind of setback are we going to allow in our code as a conditional use besides just 1 megawatt. I think that's something we need to do research on so we have that information. So if our code is going to be just looking at a 1 megawatt, I don't think the setback is large enough if we have a larger one. So that's my comment to the committee. It's your decision. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Yep. Anybody else? Supervisor Shanborn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little bit concerned about how this is all going about with the setbacks in these battery storage things, that these storage units, are they in concrete bunkers or how is this all laid out? Because what I am worried about is the size and the capability. Mr. Beck's reply with just using town of Ringgold as an example, the fire department to get back to these things And, you know, the livelihood, if it does catch a fire, I feel that if we don't have a really good answer for these people on this, putting this possible catastrophe that could happen, whether it's a 1 megawatt or up to 100. I'm just saying, I think we really need to do a little bit more research and see what other municipalities, I'm just saying, like throughout the United States, because this is a now thing that's really happening. And if we don't have solid answers for these people, then I think we're there, but we're not quite there. Thank you.
If I may, go ahead. One thing I wanted to point out too, and I definitely appreciate the comments and the concerns for sure. One thing I would say is we already have a battery energy storage ordinance in our code right now. If these amendments didn't get passed, we still have the one that's in place. It's just we're not as protected with that one as we are with this one. Our department is always looking for ways to improve our ordinances and whatnot. So we definitely can continue research as we do with many other items. I would just caution throwing away the entire amendments just because there's still some unanswered questions. There's, in my profession, there's always gonna be unanswered questions. It's how do we best protect the towns in which we have control over and zoning authority. So I would suggest taking that just into consideration when you're talking about these. We can always keep reviewing it, right? But if we take all of these amendments and throw them out right now, we're still left with an ordinance that's in place that's not as protective as this one.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, what Chad's saying is this gets put through, we can always revisit it and re-strengthen it. We can look at it endlessly down the road, so. Supervisor Drabek, do you have a question?
Well, I was thinking about putting an amendment in at 300 feet instead of 200 feet as a start, and then go on from there. I think in 3 months or 6 months or whatever, revisit it and find out what is actually working.
Just for clarification on that, are you, because there's essentially 2 setbacks listed here for commercial BSS, 100 from all property lines and 200 from any existing dwelling not owned by the owner. Are you saying flat 300 setback, like from a property line, or from I guess just for clarity on what you're.
Thank you. I guess I was thinking of a residence, any residence or anything.
That is something that the committee could propose, but it would be up to the committee.
So is that something we would vote on the amendment?
First, looks like you got it.
Yeah. Supervisor Gibbs, Chair Gibbs?
So the question then becomes, wouldn't you have to do another public hearing and also get the feedback from all of the towns if you're going to be changing your proposed change that you have right now?
Yeah, I think that would be.
I don't think it's a material enough change to require a whole new public hearing on this, so.
Okay.
It's a good thought, though. We had that discussion.
Do you have a follow-up, Supervisor Drabek?
Well, I just didn't hear from my towns because they never had it on the agenda. I mean, I would like to have heard from them, but I didn't get any feedback. I talked to them at a meeting later and it never was on their agenda for some odd reason. I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
Supervisor Gallo?
Thank you again. I appreciate you giving me a chance to speak on this issue. Basically, I think the 1 megawatt with residential has a good setback. It's when you go to the commercial one, that may look, you need more research on what that would be. if you want to move this ordinance forward, it's fine to do that, but I think it's important that if this committee agrees, to send back staff to do more research on a setback for the commercial type. So make sure, an individual, I think you're looking at this as residential, yes, but there are also going to be areas where you can put commercial, and I think you have different setbacks. I'm sorry for delivering this. Thank you for the comment.
No, you're good. Okay, anybody else? Marilyn?
Do you have any idea of what other counties are doing on the setbacks between private and business? What are they proposing?
From our research, what we have listed here is what we commonly saw for setbacks. I'm just trying to think of an opportunity where, to your point, as systems are different, different setbacks may be required. It could be something as simple as a line added in there that gives the Board of Adjustment the ability to adjust depending on the system. The one thing I will say is, we have to be very careful what we put in there, what's going to be considered too restrictive or what's reasonable. And for instance, if we put 1,000-foot buffer on there, likely that's going to be viewed as that's not reasonable. So we just got to keep that in mind as well.
Right. Anybody else? Chair Gibbs, you have one?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, our staff do an excellent job of is do the research and brought forward what was researched in other counties in the best interest of our county. So I understand the concerns when we start talking about commercial versus residential, but I also think that, when we've looked at practices throughout the state and ordinances that are in the state that have withstood the test, I think that we need to rely on our staff and their expertise that they brought forward. Thank you.
I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Anybody else? Supervisor Drabek.
So I can't put an amendment in at the 300 feet then? Is that what you're saying, or got to make a motion to have a 300-foot
Mr. Chair,
from a residence?
if I may.
Yeah.
I think 300 feet from a residence would be something that could be viewed as reasonable. Again, I would just confirm that it's from a residence and keep, whether you're adjusting the property line one or if it's just from the residence. But yeah, I think 300 feet could be viewed as reasonable.
Okay, does anybody want to second that amendment? Supervisor Kurth, any further discussion on the amendment? Supervisor Lemmer?
All right, sorry to be confused, but on page 87, I think I'm on the right section, there is a private BES. It's section A, and it says a minimum of 15-foot setback from all other on-site structures. And then B is commercial, and that's where it outlines the 100 feet from property lines and 200 from existing dwellings. So are you saying that, Supervisor Drabek, that you want to switch the 15 to a 300 on a residence?
No, I'm just saying for commercial, not for residence.
He's talking about 300 feet away from a residential building. So basically, I think it would be changing on B1B, probably the minimum 200 feet away from any existing dwelling not owned by the system owner. You would change that 200 to 300. Does that sound? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you understand this, Professor Kurth? Okay, any further discussion on this, on the amendment? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries, but is not unanimous. So now we will go back to the original item 5A4. As amended. And what are your wishes?
I'll make the motion to, approve the or ordinance changes for the buses.
To move it to county board, right?
Move it to county board.
Okay, Supervisor Lemmer with the motion. Do I have a second? Supervisor Kurth with a second. Any further discussion on this? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to item 5A5, Marathon County Conservation Planning and Zoning Text Amendment Changes to Chapter 17 Zoning Code related to a moratorium on data centers.
Okay, so this is very similar. I'm not going to go through the outreach efforts because a lot of them, it was tied together with the other ones, and it followed a very similar timeline. So we'll just kind of get right into the ordinance here. Essentially, this is a moratorium in place for Marathon County to start researching and developing a data center ordinance to make sure that we develop something that, again, will help our county zone town areas that are under this ordinance should a development like a data center come in place. As far as some of the town recommendations that we did get, let's see, again, 6 of the 18 towns, all 6 of the responses were in support of the amendment. If we consider the 7th being Marathon, town of Marathon, they were all in support of the moratorium for data centers. One thing I wanted to bring up, and it was just kind of something that popped up, I wanted to offer essentially an amendment to it, and what I wanted to do is our ordinance right now, it provides a pathway for certain data centers to still be allowed, and reason being, a lot of businesses, schools, things like that, technology is always expanding, and they have server rooms, which technically would qualify as could be looked at as a data center. So we wanted to accommodate that. Currently, the proposal that we have here, it essentially says facilities that are the primary use of the parcel are subject to the moratorium. However, if there is an accessory use of a data center that's less than 500 square feet, that would still be allowed as an accessory structure under the zoning code. The one thing, the amendment, and I'll bring that up in just a sec, I wanted to try and account for was so we didn't have, let's just use a business as an example. The business has an accessory structure as a data center that's under 5,000 square feet. Then they propose another data center that's on the same property that's 5,000 square feet, and so on and so on. We wanted to limit that so they couldn't, in effect, put a large data center in and still meet that 5,000 square foot. So what we did, I did throw together just some draft language. It's only this section. What's changed is the highlighted portion here. It's up on the screen. Basically where it says, where the cumulative gross floor area of all data center facilities on the parcel exceeds 5,000 square feet. Data center facilities with a cumulative gross floor area of 5,000 square feet or less are incidental. And so it basically accounts for that. It's taking all the floor area of the data center and incorporating into that 5,000 square feet. That would kind of prevent us from having the ability for somebody to say, here's a 5,000 square foot, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000. And then we end up with quite a large data center on the property, but it fits in kind of loopholes. The data center moratorium, essentially what it does is it restricts the county from accepting conditional use permits, issuing zoning permits, text amendments related to data centers that would allow them until we have something developed. And that's it. It exempts data centers that are already in place. I don't know of any in Marathon County, but in case there are some out there, they can still operate as they're operating currently. If they expand it, it would be subject to this, depending again on that 5,000 square foot standard that's in there. Are there any questions? I know what I probably just said was very confusing because it seemed a little discombobulated in my head, but I'd be happy to address any questions if you have it.
Any questions for Shad on that? I think we're good.
I think there's
Chair Gibbs?
Yeah, I just want to, I know we heard from the public about the support for the moratorium, and I clearly am in support of the moratorium, but I want to be clear, because I think there may be a little bit of misunderstanding that Marathon County is proposing a moratorium, but that moratorium clearly is only going to control data centers in our 18 zoned towns. It does not, and I repeat, it does not have the same effect on cities, villages, or towns that are not county zoned. So this moratorium, and again, I support its development and the development of a code to control data centers, but I want to be clear to the public that it clearly is only in effect if adopted by the full county board as it moves forward. It only has impact on those 18 towns that are town zoned, or county zoned, excuse me. Thank you.
Go ahead, Corp Counsel.
In the moratorium, it should also be noted is only for the time period that's listed in there, in the moratorium, which I believe is 12 months. So this isn't, just so that everybody's clear, this isn't a permanent moratorium on data centers. It's a moratorium so that we can, collect our thoughts and put a well thought out ordinance together in order to have proper regulations on these types of facilities. Just want everybody to be clear on that.
Very good. Supervisor Lemmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to ask maybe Chair Gibbs, if you could just answer this question for me. Is the WCA doing anything for a state level decision? I know our legislature's not really working right now, at least on business, but any possibility of getting this to be more of a regional or statewide decision to make it have more value?
There's a lot of discussion at the WCA level on data centers and the regulatory authority. However, it's going to require potentially legislative action. And so at this point, the legislature has adjourned, and so it'll be probably next session when there's discussion. There's also been some discussion at federal level. So it's really unclear at this point. I think the county is approaching it the best that we can, and that is controlling what we do have authority to control. And that happens to be our zoning code in the zone towns.
One more question. Do you think any data center would be built in a city in the state of Wisconsin?
Supervisor Gao?
Thank you, sir. Once this came up, I do a lot of research on the project before I would vote on it from the county level. I do want to let you know there's 64 data centers in the state of Wisconsin. There are 4 large data centers in the state of Wisconsin. They're in villages of Pleasant Plains, and 2 of them are in Port Washington, and there's one being developed large over 200 some acres in Dodgeville for Beaver Dam. So basically, there is portions of large data centers already occurring in the state of Wisconsin. We all know that there is a lot of people concerned about data centers, and they have a lot of negative turns on it. I've done some research on them. The data centers are changing their technology drastically because of the negative turns portion of it. And basically, they're doing different types of cooling systems for it. But I'm not saying there's nothing against the moratorium that we're doing at our county level. However, if we're going to do an ordinance, I think it's very important we do a lot of research on what's be able to come in. And furthermore, I've done research already that 5 megawatts are available to meet the land mass that we have for Stratford, Edgar, Marathon City, Croninwater, Weston, and the city of Wausau. So for 5 megawatt, they have enough land for that. Now that only takes 80 to 100 acres. So when you're looking at anything larger than 5 megawatt, that's the land mass you're talking about. So when someone starts talking about the data centers, please keep in mind there are different levels of data centers. And when you're talking about a moratorium, that's important. And I think it's good for we're doing this. I think it's good for our county. The other thing I want to point out, in our magazine that we received today from Wisconsin County Association, there's a page in there regarding what Wisconsin energy leaders say coming next. So I think it's important that we read that. We're on the cusp right now ourselves. Also in the Wasatch, there's a whole nice article on could AI help small farmers in Marathon County compete? That's very interesting because we already have AI involved with the larger farmers. And what's coming is not, you think the actual small farmer, it's being done through their machinery, the equipment, the milking process. So AI has some positive things for our industry. Even like someone said, even the schools. You'll be surprised how many our large farms already are involved with AI. I just want to make that appointment. I have a comment because I'm going to support it through the county board, but I think it's important when we start with the regulations. It's very important to realize what side you're dealing with, doing a lot of data research on it, so we have an ordinance that fits some things that we do have to have in our county. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's kind of why we will be doing a moratorium, so we can do the research needed. Anybody else?
For the testimony. You have to do.
Yeah. Okay, if nobody else has any questions or comments, I guess I would like to ask anybody in the room or online if you would like to speak in favor of item 5A5 pertaining to the moratorium on data centers. One more time, is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of item 5A5? Is there anybody that would like to speak against item 5A5?
I think you had a hand up for the previous one.
Okay. Speak for, come on up to the mic.
Can I ask a question? I'm not really sure if I'm in favor or not.
Then you can speak as interested when I call for that,
Okay.
if that's what you would rather do?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay. I'll call once again. Does anybody want to speak in favor of item 5A5? Okay. Is there anybody who would like to speak against item 5A5? One more time. Is there anybody that would like to speak against item 5A5? Now, is there anybody who would like to speak as interested in item 5A5? Please step up to the mic. If you could please raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
As best I can.
All right. Please state your name for the record.
It's Peggy Coas, and I live in Marathon County, just on the border of Portage County. My question is water. Nobody's mentioned water. And I just want to be sure that somebody's doing the research, that they're including, because I really appreciate this gentleman explaining that it's just Marathon County jurisdiction. Is the water Marathon County jurisdiction? Because that's the water I'm drinking. So I want to be sure that Wausau doesn't suck up all my water to give to a business that they're making money off of their taxes. Just because I don't live in Wausau, I'm still drinking water that's coming somewhere in the groundwater, somewhere through Wisconsin. So I want the water protected. Okay, so that's my question is, are you going to make sure you're going to protect the water, whether it's in our jurisdiction or not?
Would questions just be for staff or?
It'll be evaluated during the process for development of the ordinance.
Yeah, this
We have
is for the
very
moratorium.
competent conservation staff that I'm sure can help us with that. So, yeah, it'll be a consideration, I guess, as we do our research, is what I can say.
Okay, that would be my concern, is just make sure that we have our clean water from Wisconsin. I'm reading so much stuff about Arizona and Nevada and Utah are running out of water. The Colorado River is drying up. The Hoover Dam is below breaking point. And according to Arizona government, as long as it's an emergency situation, President Trump can build a canal from the Great Lakes to Arizona and take our water. So I would like to be sure that Wisconsin doesn't give up our clean water. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak as interested on item 5A5? All right, seeing none, I will declare this hearing closed. Now, do we take your amendment into consideration right now?
I believe it would be handled kind of like the last one we
Like
did.
the
where
last
yep.
amendment. Does anybody have any questions, Rashad, about his amendment that he suggested? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve Shad's amendment that he suggested? Supervisor Lemmer with the motion to approve. Do I have a second? Supervisor Henson with the second. Any further discussion on the amendment from staff? Right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion for the amendment carries. Now we will discuss item 5A5 as amended. Supervisor Lemmer, the question?
All right, so more procedural. If we vote to approve the moratorium, what's the timeline then on, we have 12 months to come up with an ordinance, so can you just spitball a quick little timeline out there to know when we would revisit this?
Yeah, so the moratorium, you're correct, is 12 months. It would still need to be approved by county board, so that 12 months would likely start after the county board approval. But we would go, honestly, we'd start that process as soon as we can, just because there is a lot of research to do and 12 months does go fast. We would definitely bring back things we've found and have discussions with the Environmental Resource Committee during that process, because we'll also need guidance on where the ordinance is going and things like that. So I can't give you an exact timeline on when that would be done, but I know we would start it as soon as we can, just because we also want to make sure that we're covering our basis and doing the research needed. And I'd hate to waste half a year and then get to the point where we're in a rush.
So then you would come back with something, we would have another public hearing, but it would go to all the 18 towns for their feedback, and so similar process to this. And if we needed to extend it, could we, if we were? I mean, you hate to write up policy, bad policy because you're under a time crunch.
Yeah, we do have to be careful about extending. I believe there are, and Corporation Counsel might be able to answer this better than I can, but you can extend for a reasonable time frame is six months or something like that after a 12-month. But again, we have to justify it. If we haven't started anything, it's very hard to justify saying we're going to extend it, but we haven't done anything yet.
He's absolutely correct. That's why you've hired him.
Right. Anybody else? Any questions, or does anybody like to make a motion? Supervisor Drabek?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion for a moratorium of 1 year related to data centers.
Supervisor Drabek with the motion.
Sir.
As amended, I'm sorry.
As amended. And does anybody like to make a second? Supervisor DeBrew with a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries as amended. We'll move on to item 5A6, Marathon County Conservation Planning and Zoning text amendment changes to Chapter 17 zoning code related to large energy generating facilities.
Okay. Third and final Chapter 17 amendment for today. But I did want to go over and just first note one thing is when we did send this out to the town, you'll notice on the comment sheet that you have in front of me was large electric energy facilities. We did change the title of it to a large electric generating facilities to make it more consistent with state statute. The meat of it has stayed the same. It's just essentially that portion was changed, just so there's no confusion on that. The idea for this one, as many of the discussions we have had, we all know we're very hand-tied on what we can do with systems that are over 100 megawatts. The idea of this ordinance, this is something that we worked with an outside counsel to develop, as well as had staff work on. But the idea of it is to inform the county. So the Public Service Commission has a review process, and in that review process, they're required to look at the orderly land use development and things like that. Who's better to provide input to that? The community in which those systems are going in. So the idea of this ordinance is to have the developer provide us with the information that they're going to provide to PSC, so we can make an informed decision on how we want to proceed. It's really, do we, how the county wants to proceed in getting their opinions across to PSC, or working with the developer, or, it's essentially to make sure we're making an informed decision and not operating in the dark. This ordinance is not intended to stop a project, because the state doesn't allow us to do that. Again, it's to make sure that we are operating with the information that would help us make decisions on how we want to move forward with the PSC process or the process with the developer. Again, this followed a very similar outreach effort. Again, this one, just like the other two, it only applies to county-zoned towns. So this is, again, only for county-zoned towns. But essentially what it requires is before a large electric generating facility applies to the state, they have to do engineering plans and a bunch of other information 60 days prior to them submitting that application to the PSC. This ordinance is requiring them essentially to submit that same information to us 30 days after they submit it to the Public Service, which would in effect give us 30 days, which is a quick timeline, but to review that before PSC essentially got a hold of it, so we could, identify, what the ins and outs of the project are and how we feel it's going to affect land use development in our area. With that being said as well, hopefully we're already, developers are coming to us and letting us know of these projects ahead. This is, again, just to make sure that we are informed. So, and getting that information should they not come to us ahead of time to inform us on those projects. So there's kind of, it lays out, the county review and coordination, the timeline in which they would need to submit to us. And then through all that process, in hopes of getting them to come and have discussions with us to at least inform us of the project. So again, we can make an informed decision on how the county wants to proceed, whether it's talks with the developer or participate in the PSC's process. It does state in the end that even if essentially if the developer chooses not to follow this or does choose to follow this, it doesn't give up our rights as a county to go through the intervention process if we feel it's needed. Again, this is really something that we're the first county doing this type of ordinance. It was a different pathway that we feel gives us a good opportunity to at least make sure we stay informed on the upcoming projects.
Any questions for Shad? Supervisor Drabek?
Chad, thanks. I was just wondering, why not 60 days instead of 30 days?
The 60-day point is when they have to supply it to, when they have to give it to the DNR or the PSC, their engineered drawings. And at that point, that's a reasonable timeline, I would say, without us pushing the envelope of saying we're requiring something that they didn't already have to do. They've already submitted the information, and it gives us opportunity to review it. But it would be nice to have longer. I don't disagree. Yeah. if Corp Counsel wants to.
Go ahead, Corp Counsel.
I just think we need to be clear. I think Shad's using the term that we're requiring them to do this. This ordinance, I mean, we can't make them do anything. The point of this ordinance is to request that they provide this information to us, that they come to our table, that, you know, they interact with us. And if they choose not to, I think that gives us a better sense of what actions we want to take. You know, maybe then we do want to intervene in the PSC process and, you know, voice our concerns that way. Ordinance is really looking to, I guess, open that dialogue and start that conversation.
Thank you for the clarification there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Marilyn?
If you really want any changes, you need the legislature to make the changes.
You are correct. Anybody else? Supervisor Lammer?
Could you just walk me through what this looks like from staff's perspective? I assume it's staff who's going to be going through the however many pages of that PSC packet. And I feel the same with Supervisor Drabeck. Could we go with 45 days instead of 30? But anyway, I guess I'm just wondering, you know, then are you offering your knowledge of Marathon County? Are you offering your expertise on some of the articles to be able to, I guess, maybe fact check, whatever, as an assurance for our constituency to get behind a project or get behind the opposition of the project? I mean, just talk to me about how this would look from a staff perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, there is a lot of information that's in those engineered drawings, and as staff, we're not always up to date on exactly every type of project and whatnot. So there would be quite a bit of research, but as part of this, it does also ask the individuals to come forward to the county and participate with the county, so questions could be asked. You know, the developers are the ones that spend a lot of time with this, so at least having something in our ordinance that says, look, we want to be informed, and having them come and talk to us so we can be informed. It's not saying we have to enter into anything. It's not saying we're going to intervene. It's saying we want to be informed so we can make a decision that's best for the county. But to your point, I know I am not an expert at reviewing engineered drawings for solar, wind type of facilities. So depending on the project, if we feel it's necessary, we might have to look at outside sources that could help us. The timeline of 30 days is tough. I will say that, we'll scroll back up to here. So it's the filing of the engineered plan. So it's not necessarily saying that they're filing a application, they're filing that engineered plan. So it should have some of the information in so we can keep ourselves up to speed. And then as far as, hopefully in a perfect world, the developer would come to us before we get to that point, and they would be engaged with us prior to that to inform us. But this is kind of like hey, we have this in place, we want to talk to you. It's hard, we haven't gone through it and see how the inner workings of it work yet. So it's hard to say exactly how it looks from a staff perspective. But I would imagine if something's complicated where we feel we can't address questions, we would look for outside resources that can to help explain that.
So do you anticipate then, similar to our rezones, offering like a staff recommendation or something like that? Or is it going to be just more of a dialogue with the developer?
So are you asking like if we would recommend to approve a project or not?
Well, I don't know, you know, it says that the county will review. I guess I'm just wondering what that review, what is the deliverable on the review?
So I think the review would just be, if we identify areas that we feel are of concern, we would let the committees know and whatnot. As far as, and really it's a review to get you guys up to speed, and you guys would ultimately make the decision on how do you want to proceed, if you want to proceed with whatever avenue you take. There isn't anything we would, like, for example, if they provide us with the information, the county, again, our hands are tied, right? So we're not able to say, no, we don't want the project if it's going to PSC, but we can make an informed decision on how we want to approach the project. Does the county want to enter into an agreement? Does the county want to go to the intervention process? Does the county want to do nothing? So this is really honestly just to give us information about that project that we otherwise may not have gotten information. And again, like Corporation Counsel said, there is a potential that a developer just doesn't do this. But again, it gives us an argument if we did go to the PSC, like, look, we had this in place to try and be informed, and potentially get some items addressed.
So basically, it's definitely going to be a case-by-case situation.
Yeah, I mean, what we generally will do, if this gets passed, my initial plan was every developer that I know of that is going to be planning on doing a project in Marathon County, and again, there's some we probably don't know of, but we would send this ordinance to them to make them aware of our wants and go from there. I mean, there's going to be a period in here where people aren't familiar with our zoning code. So we might have to do a little backtracking and try and be like, hey, we have this ordinance in place, and ask them to kind of come to the table.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
Chair Ritter, Supervisor Robinson's waiting to speak.
Okay, Supervisor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How will this work in light of the Alternative Energy Local Impact Committee process that we have? I've got a couple of questions. So if we could start with that one, where we've got that 75-day turnaround. Are all of these those actionable items, or are these merely the plans that are part of that process?
I can try. That is a very great question. This is Administrator Leonard. I think, again, just to kind of ground everyone in how we got to this point with this, what staff heard and the direction we've gotten to this point is staff should look for ways for the county board to be as involved as possible in a process in which we currently, to borrow the phrase that's been bantered around, is our hands are largely tied. This is the result of that effort. Working with not only Corporation Counsel, my office, certainly CPZ staff, trying to find what avenues exist for us to be as informed as we can be about a project. And I think your question is, again, very appropriate. What does that look like? Short answer is, I don't know. We haven't had one come through yet. We just did our first local energy project impact advisory committee. We just wrapped that up. I think my initial first blush at it is we'll have as much information as we have through this process could support the work of that committee, provided, of course, they overlap. If the chair under your existing rules with the local impact advisory committee, if the chair becomes aware of a project earlier, under your rules, they're required to move forward with the appointment process. Perhaps there's not a great deal of value then to this process. But if those timelines do overlap, at least arguably, the plans that would be submitted consistent with the PSC requirements and the requests of this review process ordinance could be of benefit. But again, if I'm being very candid with you, Supervisor Robinson, and this body, I guess it depends and we'll see. But just to be very clear, staff took the homework assignment to mean look through the existing statutes in the administrative code and see where the county board of supervisors may have more opportunities to be informed about projects. And this is our result of our homework assignment. You are not obligated to accept the homework assignment.
So I have a follow-up question. As it relates to the submittal of the plans to the Public Service Commission, does that trigger the creation of a docket? And would we be better served on subscribing to information on that docket and then making it available? That would give us hopefully immediate notification. Do we know that? And then my third, and honestly, the other question, I share both Supervisor Lemmer and Supervisor Drabeck's concern relative to the timeliness. I would think that if we're going to adopt an ordinance, that we look at a much quicker notification process, for instance, 7 days or at most 15 days.
I'll take one of those questions here quick, as regarding the PSC process and the docket number. My understanding with the PSC docket number is that starts when the application is submitted, not necessarily the pre-engineering plans. So the docket number wouldn't, when they submit that engineered plan to the DNR and/or PSC, that docket number isn't yet created. It's when they submit their official application. I'm blanking on the other two questions, so if you could please repeat, or.
I think your other question was just do you want to make the notification under the ordinance to be quicker than within 30 days following filing of the pre-engineering drawings with the DNR? And again, to be clear on all of this, this is our best attempt to achieve compliance with a developer that under state law is under no obligation to comply. So we can put whatever number you want in there. Within 7 days of submittal, we respectfully request we can do that. Again, there's no real penalty for the developer. What it would arguably give the county board is information on whether or not the project itself is one that would, and the facts and circumstances surrounding the project is one that would best be addressed through the routes that Shad laid out and that this body is very familiar with. Do you want to engage in discussions relative to a community benefit or joint development agreement or not? Or do you want to choose the intervention route through the PSC or not? And those are essentially your options available to you. But again, this is set up to really just request information in a timeline that staff, in working with outside counsel, thought was not unduly onerous to a developer. But if you wanted to change it to within 7 days of their filing with the DNR, we certainly can do that.
I also, considering that the developers have no obligation whatsoever, I think we also got to be careful if we tighten that noose too tight, it just gives them more incentive just to tell the county, too bad, we don't have to listen to you. I think keeping it a little bit more reasonable with them might invite them to at least converse with us. Supervisor Gao.
Thank you, Chair. Supervisor Robinson gave quite good questions. I was a member of the Energy Advisory Committee, and knowing how the Public Service Commission works, we were fortunate to have Alliant come in and talk to us so we have time to do that, do some of the work. However, there are developers who will not do that. So I am very, very proud of the staff getting this together to have this in front of us so we have a mechanism in place. I'll be honest with you, on all three of these things, I asked a lot of questions of the staff. I got excellent answers. They give a great report to me. I'll be honest with you, I think we've got an excellent staff that really has done some research on it. There's more work to be done. However, one of the things that we have is there's solar farms. They come in fairly quickly. They weren't happening. Easton's talking about one. We haven't seen anything on that from the Public Service Commission yet. They've done a lot of planning out there. We're very much aware they're already purchasing agreements in that area, but we have nothing to say or anything to do in front of if we want to do a joint development agreement or do you want to intervene. Basically, our group would get presented something to the executive committee. They're dealing with that right now if they want to, what they need to do next as an executive committee from our recommendations. So I'm very, very in support of this resolution, or excuse me, I think it's something that this county should have. I'm glad we're the first one doing it because I think it's very important. And it's also, I think our citizens, when I was listening to the hearing, they want us involved. And this is one thing I think is important for us as a county, to show them that we at least have something on our books, trying to making sure that we are upfront, knowing about these things before they occur. I think the 30 days, if I'm correct, in that corporation council, and that is something that we came up with, but I think this is the first time a county is doing this. And I think there's our council, maybe not you, but our council regarding energy, large energy pieces. Is there any other mechanism that Supervisor Robinson was talking about that we could, we get 30 days to do the work, but is there any way we can have more time, get the information before we can give a comment back? In other words, comment back to a joint development agreement or comment back to an intervention? Thank you, sir. And thank you, Chair, for my comment.
Anybody else? Administrator
I'll
Leonard.
try to answer that it's a good question. I think, and this is what I got up to ask Shad, I think, again, we're all going to be learning. If this does proceed, we'll figure it out as we go. But my sense is that, again, this is the pre-engineering filing. It goes to DNR. Then there's going to be some period of time between that filing and the formal filing of an application with the Public Service Commission. And I'm not aware, certainly not an expert in this area, but I'm not aware of any set time that must exist between those two dates or an average time. I don't know if you know of any.
I believe there is a minimum, so depending on the tower height, it's either 60 or 180 days. So that's a minimum. Doesn't mean, so it's like once they submit their pre-application, depending on the height of the tower, it can either be a 60-day notice or 180-day notice. And that's a minimum. They can submit their application after that, but they at least have to give that amount of time before they submit their application.
Okay, so we'd be guaranteed 60 days. Could try to map out a timeline, but it doesn't get to the, I mean, again, it's entirely up to this committee and ultimately the county board whether or not you want to try to move that timeline back a little bit from their pre-engineering filing. If you want to say within 7 or 10 days of the filing, they provide the same information to us, we can make that change. I know that doesn't answer your question.
That doesn't, I don't think that helps us. I think that our chair mentioned that in longer period of time, I know that as a consultant, been involved with this portion, you give them too short a period of time, they're not even going to talk to you. The second question I finally have is that this is a new ordinance and a new recommendation to our county and throughout the whole state of Wisconsin. There is no type of penalty clause we can put in there because it's an ordinance. Yeah, if that doesn't, they don't occur. I'm asking that question for legal counsel.
I have one question. Lance, do you know of any other counties that are doing anything?
This is all, I mean, this is new, what we're proposing here. I'm not sure if other counties are looking at doing this or not. They may be looking at us to see how it goes here. And I think Shad's right with those timeframes. I mean, there's minimum times that they have to wait before they can submit anything. You know, there's no maximum as far as I'm aware. I'm just trying to figure that out right now if there's somebody that has a defined timeline online, but Google's not helping me here today. But, you know, just because they have to wait 60 days doesn't mean they might not wait 90 days, 180 days before, you know, they make their permit applications. There's a lot of things that can change, go wrong, go right for them in that time period. So, I mean, we're getting, like Chad said, a minimum of 30 days. I don't know if there's any way to stretch that out any further, quite frankly. But like I say, we're taking a novel approach here, and you know, I guess we'll see how it goes. We can always look at it in the future and see what we liked, what we didn't like when this process goes through, and make adjustments.
If I can add one more thing as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is this gives a minimum of 30 days. Obviously, if we are aware of developers in the area, we'll send this as soon as we find out about it. So they may comply with information well before this. This was just kind of like a, hey, the county wants the information.
Okay. Supervisor Grau?
I didn't get an answer to my question. Is there any type of penalty we can put in this ordinance? I don't see one now, and I don't know if we can, but I think it's something that I'd like to have research if by your council that has helped recommend us put it in place.
I can tell you, we can't put a penalty in there. I mean, the only penalty really is, as I spoke of before, if they're not going to come and talk with us and give us information that we take to the PSC if we want to intervene, and that may actually help us gain traction with the PSC to say, hey, we were trying to work with them. We have this ordinance on the books. We wanted them to come talk to us. They didn't come talk to us. Here's all our concerns, and here's why you should find them to be valid, because nobody would discuss with us.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, any other questions or comments? Okay, now I can ask, is there anybody in the room or online that would like to speak in favor of item 5A6 pertaining to the large electric energy facilities? Once again, is there anybody that would like to speak in favor of item 5A6? Is there anybody that would like to speak against item 5A6? Once again, is there anybody that would like to speak against item 5A6? Is there anybody that would like to speak as interested in?
I think we had a hand up in the back.
Oh, sorry. I forget about that. If you could raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right.
Jerry Fisher, Town of Day. I live near Resolvo. So I have an airstrip that's been located there in the Town of Day long before these wind turbines have been even talked about. And I'm a pilot. Also, I traveled commercially. In 2020, I was on 148 flights working construction, commercial around the country. Anyways, my house was located in a flight path between Minneapolis and Mosinee, and airplanes going by all the time. And basically, that's where my airstrip is. I have a safety concern for these wind turbines. First of all, the setback was never increased. These wind turbines at first were talked about being 500 and some feet, and now we're talking about almost 700 feet, and the setbacks were never increased. So I think Alliant Energy kind of hoodwinked us there a little bit. But, as far as the way our area looks, it's beautiful right now. When you're 1,000 feet in the air and you just look around, there's lakes and everything. And the last thing I'd like to see is wind turbines, especially in our area. They're calling for approximately 40 of them. And so from a private pilot aspect, that's considered an obstacle that you could run into. So anyway, Wisconsin's a beautiful area, and I sure hate it being cluttered up by wind turbines. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak as interested? Please step up to the mic.
Thank
I
you.
believe you're already sworn in,
I
correct?
did.
All
Heidi
right.
Pesky from Town of McMillan. I also have an interest in this. I live in the project area. I live between the two, Mead and McMillan Wildlife, so concerns there. But I'm concerned a few things. One is I know that when they come in the area, and they've been in here for years, sneaking in, is there anything as us as a community can say, and maybe it's not legality-wise, but they sneak in and they sign up all these landowners. What are can we give preemptively? I thought it was in, one of the attorneys from the very beginning had said it'd be nice to know if they're in the area area and speaking to our residents, make the residents aware, but what's in this contract, beware, look into it and give them in kind of advice if it's possibility. I'm not sure, but I think it would be very helpful for these residents that are coming in unaware, there's so many that aren't, to know and be protected and just get a little more information. So they're not overwhelmed, and I think there's a wonderful thing, but really should look into it further. Maybe the county can give some guidance. And the second thing is I know that No Columbia Wind Farm is also an Alliant project. I think we can learn a lot from them if you're watching them as a site. And I know recently that they have homes that they've actually put into for the shadow flicker, which are going above and beyond. I hope the PSC would recognize that. But as a county, again, if you're looking at reviewing it, I hope we have the time if they pull the same thing in Marathon County. There's going to be 44 local properties that are above the 30-hour limit for shadow flicker, and one of them is going to have over 60 and a half hours for one family for shadow flicker, and that they're going to be, this is, you know, they're putting this in. Again, I hope that we, as a Marathon County, will have the time to review this. And there's also for the layout, they're saying, the Alliance already shuffling plans because they realize their massive blades are physically blocking regional microwave communication beams. And I know there's been a very big concern, again, for the FAA. We have the airstrips going back and forth. We have the helicopters. We have the Marshfield Hospital Aspires going back and forth. And I hope that this is another thing you can look in ahead of time preemptively. So just a few other things that I just wanted to bring up. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak as interested in item 5A6? Did you want to speak during the deliberation? No. Yeah, deliberation. Okay. All right, so then I will declare this hearing closed, and the committee will deliberate. Now, Supervisor Gao.
Kind of the same question I had before. We have some of these towns I think are all incorporated for our county zoning. Maybe one of our townships in this area may not be in county zoning. The way I understand it, this is a code for those towns that are in the zoning. If we go forward with this as a county board vote, the towns that are not in county zoning have to do this on their own, if I understand right, if they want to participate.
That is correct.
And second, would the county drag them in or do research for them, or they're on their own? It's a big question because
As far as I understand, the county will not pair with the towns.
I figured that because they did not plan on becoming county zone, so therefore they're on their own. I understand how zoning works. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep. Anybody else? Supervisor Leber.
I'm sorry, don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I am concerned about staff time on this, especially if we're not going to get a ton of bang for our buck. And so I'm struggling because I like the idea of having the public participate. I want something authentic. But my concern is how much staff time is going to be dedicated to this, and then what will the trade-offs be? And I hate to put you on the spot. Maybe you can just say, I'm pleading the fifth, but do you feel that there is staff capacity to handle something like this?
I can, if you want to fill in after me if I miss something. To be quite honest with you, we haven't gone through something like this yet, so I don't know exactly how much staff time this particular pathway would lead us to. I know the advisory committee, that was a lot of staff time that went into that particular process, but I can't even put a number to what this might be because I don't know until we've gone through that particular process.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Shad's saying. We don't know until we face this. I think based on the amount of information we get and the timeline, we're going to have to figure out what we can provide back to the county board within that timeline and talk to the administrator if we need additional resources to do that with, so.
So once again, Marathon County is going to pave the way for the rest of the state. Supervisor Gao.
I think that's an excellent question made by Supervisor Lehner, because I just been on an advisory committee. Personally, I put a lot of time in my own research, and I know the staff put a lot of time into. This is something, though, I think is very important for our county and for our constituents. We need to put the time in to do this. And I know we need, and I think we need to even put some funds away in this budget coming up because it's going to happen very soon. Thank you.
I would agree with you on that because we have quite a few constituents have put a lot of time in it themselves. So I think we owe it to them to do our due diligence. I agree. Anybody else? Is anybody willing to make a motion either way? Supervisor Drayback.
Just wondered how we'd make a motion either way.
For or against? Well, no,
I don't think you can make a negative.
no, you
motion,
can't.
can you?
Correct. No. Would you make a motion to
Thank you.
approve?
I'd make a
Anybody?
motion to approve the, I can't read my writing, but I'd make a motion to approve the amendments to the large electric generating facilities in Chapter 17.
Okay, Supervisor Draybeck with the motion to approve, Supervisor Kurth with a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries, but is not unanimous. Okay, now we can move on to item 5B1 for review and possible recommendations to the county board. Town of Reet Brock wind sighting ordinance.
All right, well, I'm getting it up here. So this is Town of Reet Brock. They're not under county zoning, so they would handle their own zoning ordinance amendments. So they handle the public hearing on their amendment. If you recall, I know it was during the last board, but they had come to make amendments to their wind and solar. There we go. To their wind and solar, in which the committee sent it back to them because it was found to be more restrictive than the state allowed. Staff did review this again, and we found a few items that we felt were still a bit more restrictive than the state. However, one of the bigger items involved is, and we did call to confirm, they were utilizing the public hearing from 2024 for these new amendments. They didn't hold a new public hearing. Generally, whenever you make amendments to a zoning code, especially if it's been a 2-year time frame, best practice would be to hold a public hearing for that. So as staff, we would recommend to at least send it back to the town so they can hold that public hearing, so their community can provide public hearing input to those changes.
Okay, anybody have any questions, recommendations? Basically, yeah, they're just looking for, a recommendation. Do we want to send it back to them to clean it up?
Yeah, I would make that recommendation to send it back to clean it up.
Okay. Do we all agree? Do we have a second? Second. Supervisor DeBur with a second. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Send her back. We can move on to item C1, discussion regarding 2027 annual budget development and policy recommendations from the committee, including review of the mandatory discretionary program document and discussion of rates and fees.
Okay, I will take this very briefly because the administrator did have to leave for another meeting. So he did say that amongst the departments that are under the ERC's jurisdiction, there are no new position requests coming through, and I'm looking at Jamie to confirm that too. So there isn't any updates there, and we had talked with him, at least CPZ, about talking a little bit about our rates and fees with you all, but he has asked us to wait until next month so that he can be here for that conversation as well. I know the question has been asked of CPZ a little bit about how we determine some of those rates and fees, so I will just give you a brief reminder as it relates to our permits, especially for POUTs, zoning, and non-metallic mining, just how those are determined historically. It has been a combination of what it takes to deliver the permits, what state statute or says about what we can recover. So like in non-metallic mining, we are actually allowed to recover 100% of our costs that it takes to deliver the program. And then we also work with you all on policy direction in terms of what you want to see us recover to deliver that service. So those are kind of the big things that go into it. And we are, for our POUTs and our zoning permits, we are doing some analysis to see where we are in terms of recovery, and we'll be able to talk to you more about that next month, so.
Okay, that sounds fair. So we can move on to item,
Chair, before you move on,
sure,
Chair Ritter.
sure.
Thank you. This is John Robinson. We'd just like to draw your attention to the Wisconsin Counties Association magazine that went out. There was information relative to PFAS, and particularly the PFAS Trust Fund. And I want to just highlight, given the committee's interest in groundwater quality and in past efforts to sample groundwater, that one of the provisions in there is the potential for a community grant to be used for sampling of private wells. Some of the details are yet to be worked out, but it would require a local government, whether it's a town, village, county, health department, to look at sampling. That would be something that the rules and in policies relating to that will be finalized this fall. I just wanted to bring it up as a potential area of interest as we go forward with the budget discussions.
All right, thank you.
I know in previous years, the county did have something where you could do water sampling at no cost.
That would have been, that would have been through our groundwater work group. We'd do that, and I believe that's still an ongoing process.
And that did not include any PFAS testing.
Correct.
Yeah, but that was done when we were getting the updated groundwater data. Yeah, so.
Okay, anybody else? All right, now we will move on to item 5C2, update on potential consideration of new position requests and reclassifications in connection with the development of the 2027 annual budget.
So that is also one that we don't need to discuss because there are no new position requests, so.
Okay, very good.
Oh, John, do you still have a comment there? Sorry. There's his hand up from the last one. Okay, I think we're okay.
All right. Okay. Item 5C3, amendments to schedule of cash deposits, County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 16 and Chapter 19. Jamie.
Yep, that would be me. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This is something that is really more of a housekeeping item. Last year in March, the county board approved some ordinance revisions to our Chapter 16, which is our county forest ordinance, and then Chapter 19, which is our county park ordinance. And with that, we did some reorganization of some of it, so it was more of a cleanup of our ordinances. And we realized when I've been working with our recreation deputies that on the end of each of our ordinances, 16 and 19, we have a schedule of cash deposits that they use when they're issuing violations of any of those ordinance violations. And when we did some reorganization of our ordinances back last March, we added some items that then did not have corresponding fees to them. And I swear that we did this after the fact because we noticed it right away, but I cannot find any meeting of the ERC or the county board where they were completed. But in our tracking of it, some were done and some were not in what's online on our ordinances. So I'm bringing forward to you can see the schedule of ordinances or schedule of cash deposits for both 16 and 19. And in your packet, the items in red are the ones that we'd be adding that go along with a corresponding ordinance. So this starts on page 210 is the first change in the code of Chapter 16 of adding 2 fees to that one. And then in Chapter 19, there is a couple more that went with the ordinances that we added. So it's really just a cleanup in order for our recreation deputies and our sheriff's department to have a fee associated with a base fee. They have more fees they add to this, but this is a base fee that we've always put in with Chapter 16 and 19, and I believe it's in other chapters as well, but it's more housekeeping.
Okay, any questions for Jamie? Supervisor Jerebeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering, on the smoking within 50 feet of a prohibited area, does that include e-cigarettes or that just include regular cigarettes, or how does that?
I think it's any
I don't
tobacco,
smoke, so I
I
don't
believe
know.
it's any tobacco use, but I could pull up chapter 19 and look at that. This was something that the county board updated with, along with the city council, probably around 8 years ago is when we added that, because it was right around when I started. So I may have to look at that and put the e-cigarettes, I'm not sure, and vaping, if that was a thing back then. So I will verify that and see. I know it's tobacco use, so I know it includes all tobacco, but it may not be to current times. We do have some other ordinance amendments we'll bring forward at the end of the year that we found as well, so I will verify that, and if need be, I'll add it.
All right, anybody else? All right, thanks, Jamie. No. Item,
Yeah.
we do need action on that? Yeah, okay. All right. Is anybody willing to make a motion? Supervisor Lemmer with a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Schoenborn. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we can move on to item 6, educational presentations. 6A, department updates. Continued discussion on Marathon County Chapter 11.02, Animal Waste Management Ordinance, proposed amendments and next steps.
It'll take us just 5 seconds here to get signed in. But before we do that, I'm glad I have this little opportunity to say, wow, Shad, I am super impressed by how knowledgeable and how hardworking you are on all of that. I felt like clapping for Shad at the end when, maybe we should. Should we just clap for Shad? That was amazing. I'm so proud that I get to work next to people like this. You guys are amazing at what you do, so. And you guys too, you just worked through so much. So I'm happy to report to you that I have a very easy topic for you, I think. Because we had our special meeting just a couple of weeks ago, right? So we got to spend time together talking about this in a little bit more detail. So I really think this is just a quick and easy topic for you, which is exactly what you all deserve after you got through the rest of this meeting. So I'm here to talk to you briefly just about, our continued discussion on our animal waste management ordinance. Instead of putting all of the slides related to our ordinance from our last meeting into the slide deck for you, I just thought, any interested folks from the public or anything, this is a hyperlink to the slides from our special meeting. So if they want to dig through the details of everything we discussed then, they can take a link at those slides. So really the point of this topic on the agenda today is just because here we are a few weeks later after we talked about, the initial approval from the state of Wisconsin that we had gotten on an important part of our ordinance. I would like to discuss with you a little bit of reminders of the outreach and everything that has been done over the past, this has really been over 2 years that this process has taken now. And we hope you all can discuss as a group kind of what you feel comfortable doing as the next steps. A couple of weeks ago, we said this would be the meeting where you decide together maybe what sort of timeline you would like to potentially vote on it, or, assign staff to get you additional information if you need that before making a decision. So hopefully the couple of weeks that you had to think that over was good, and you have some thoughts to share today. So just as a reminder, since conservation staff have been working with our Environmental Resources Committee on these efforts for over 2 years, we've actually held several different rounds of open houses, workshops, educational meetings. This set of dates and meetings that I have on the screen for you now, these are the meetings that have been held since absolutely nothing has been changed with the ordinance. ordinance. So as a reminder, when we started talking about this a little over 2 years ago, we were initially talking about just limiting the winter spreading of liquid manure and nothing else. And that was for all farms of all sizes, all shapes and sizes. So obviously our ordinance changes have been amended a bit and have changed and transitioned as we've come up with compromises with important stakeholders from the community. And so we have had our draft ordinance put together for a year now. Nothing has changed in a year. And last fall is when we held open houses. We went through the demographics of the open houses with you, the results of the open houses. And we've also had this on ERC meetings for months leading up until when we sent it to DNR and DATCAP for approval. We have also had really successful conversations with our farmer work group that we have been working with throughout this entire process. And one key theme that we have really had all along with this work group is that there has been unity in the path forward. So we did have a couple really hard meetings in the beginning to come up with these initial compromises. And that group has really dedicated themselves to being open-minded and making sure that whatever the results of each meeting was, they wanted to make sure there was unity in how we were going to move forward together. And so these are items that we have talked about in the past. We really have not worked together to hammer out a lot of the fine-tuned details related to an annual winter spreading license. But in this meeting, we've talked about things like allowing a 4-year permit option instead of having folks to come in to get an annual winter spreading license to make things a little bit more palatable for people. We also do not have a firm license price that we have decided together. A lot of that stuff we have not felt it's very time sensitive because all along we have said this is going to be delayed implementation. So even if county board decided in 2 months to take a vote on this, nothing would start until the delayed implementation dates. So these are the dates we have on the screen. These are not set in stone. These are just dates that the Farmer Work Group helped provide as suggestions to our policymakers. And as we've discussed them with you before, we haven't really had strong opinions against these dates. So kind of the dates we have in bullet points here are, our approved decisions by the state, winter spreading license and NMP requirements, January 1st of 2028, so well over a year. And then the manure spreading prohibitions, we'd be looking at January 1st of 2030. So still allowing folks a good couple of years to connect the dots with where they need to make some changes if necessary. So these are all kind of repeat slides. We discussed January, we submitted to the state. July, we got official decision from the state of Wisconsin that this ordinance has been approved for legal soundness through them. We went through these bullet points where the state told us, you have proven with your scientific evidence that these changes are necessary in your ordinance in order to meet the water quality standards for the state of Wisconsin. And similarly enough, it was really interesting hearing the conversations you all had earlier this evening, where it's a recurring theme in a lot of these ERC meetings we have together is, we are a leader in the state. We are the first ones doing this. No one's done this before. We're going to have to figure it out. People are looking to us, So this is not something that should feel like unfamiliar territory for policymakers in Marathon County. But as difficult as it is to have to be on the forefront of some of these things, I am so proud to be in a county that is brave enough and strong enough to make these hard decisions and to be willing to be the people out in front instead of the people running way in the back, sprinting, trying to catch up. That's a scary position to be in. So I'm glad we are where we are, and I'm proud we are where we are. And so thank you to all of you for maybe even sometimes going outside of your own comfort zones to put yourself on the forefront as well. Okay, so just as a reminder, the one part of the ordinance that was officially approved by the state of Wisconsin was no winter spreading of liquid manure in February and March for farms 300 animal units or greater. So that other part of the ordinance change that we're recommending moving forward with as well is the winter spreading permit. This is not something that had to be reviewed by the state of Wisconsin because we have authority locally to put this into our ordinance. So what we would like to do with this winter spreading permit is to say, you know, you don't need to get one if you already have a nutrient management plan. Nothing changes for you. You don't have any extra work, no extra record keeping. But if you don't have a nutrient management plan and don't want to get one, you are going to have to get a permit. Okay, and then we talked about at the last meeting that buffers are lagging behind because we do not have state approval. We would like to keep working on them. We understand after the last meeting with you all that you are encouraging staff to continue pursuing that approval through the state. We just understand that is in a timeline that is lagging behind the current timeline of these other ordinance changes. So here we are. We have arrived at where do we go from here? What are our next steps? So 2 things we do know is that our farmer work group recommended moving forward with the approved ordinance changes now and continue working on buffers. We also know that that recommendation is cohesive with staff recommendations. We would also recommend moving forward on that timeline now. And again, nothing is final until our local policymakers decide that this is a good idea as well. So that's where you all come in. As great as it is to have a first of its kind ordinance approved by the state of Wisconsin, nothing changes, nothing happens until our local policymakers say, okay, we've heard from our people, we have received the data and what we need to make a good decision, we're ready to make a decision. So that's where we're at.
At the last meeting, you said the state didn't approve of one of the things that you had?
The buffers. They didn't even review them, though. It's not that they didn't approve it. The buffers have still not been officially submitted under review for them.
Supervisor Lemmer?
All right, so this is agendized as educational, so are you saying, I mean, we can't really make any decisions today, can we? Or does this?
No voting today. You know, we just had in discussion at the educational meeting decided we likely feel most comfortable at least one more meeting, giving you guys a couple weeks to think of any questions for staff, any assignments for staff, you know, if there's just tidbits of information that you all feel like there's holes in information that you need answered, we can do that for you.
You can also provide direction to schedule the public hearing as well, stuff like that, so, you know.
Well, just speaking for myself, I would be ready for that public hearing.
All right, anybody else?
I guess I certainly agree with that. We've done a lot of discussion, a lot of thinking, and I think it's time to move on. We've done a good job, I think everyone has, of researching it, so.
Yeah, I think so. Anything else? Supervisor Drabek?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This isn't really on the agenda, but we haven't discussed like waterways and stuff, how fast that water gets moving across the field when it's in a rain. I didn't know if that should be brought into this or not, if you give that some thought and get back with me on that.
Yeah, we had a few good discussions about that in our farmer work group, because one item of discussion was, you know, if we're talking about buffers along streams, you know, is a waterway considered a buffer? And for everyone that's not as familiar with what a grassed waterway is, you know, picture a field that has a good slope to it, so the water's gonna run off of it in one direction. Ideally, if you have, you know, 40-acre field of corn or beans and the water's kind of running through the middle of it, ideally you have a lined channel with perennial vegetation on both sides of it, so that when the water does run through the middle of it, it doesn't take the soil with it when it runs through the middle of it. And if there isn't vegetation there in that waterway to provide a safe route for the water to leave the field, then when we get rain events, sometimes they're called gully washers, because if that vegetation isn't there in the waterway, it essentially eats a big gully, a big eroded line in the soil, taking literal tons of soil with it into our ditches that our towns unfortunately have to pay buco bucks to clean out. It's a huge hardship on our towns to have to deal with that. So I agree that waterways are something we need more of, and we could talk about that for a very long time. When we were talking about buffers, waterways were not considered, perennial waters of the state where they'd be required to have vegetation there. I do think, in my professional opinion, if we mandated waterways and fields along with buffers, I think it would be too much of a bite to chew for. That's a really big change. I mean, you all could probably name 10 fields off the top of your heads in this county that could use a waterway. I bet if we went around the room, you could all point on air photos to me of fields that need more waterways in this county. So we can, if we want to think of a way to incorporate it into discussion, I'm certainly open-minded and happy to do that. I do think that's just a really big item to include within a couple of items that are already very impactful.
I think that would also open up a whole can of worms as far as animal grazing. I'd be concerned about grazing land being taken away if we can't graze on those waterways in the fields.
I think, and right now we're kind of talking in a dream world, right? Where if we were, having waterways put in everywhere, I think those two things could exist in harmony. I do. And I think a lot of people, in fields where there are waterways, like designed waterways, typically those are row crop fields too. So we wouldn't have many grazers using them. But that being said, managed grazing is one of the best ways to introduce animals into there for a small amount of time to help maintain that vegetation and any woody brush that's growing up as well. In good news, Supervisor Drabek, by encouraging the adoption of more nutrient management plans, we will naturally get more waterways on the landscape, because as people are inputting what crops they are putting into their rotations, what their soil tests are into our nutrient management software, there are many fields where the software will pop up and say, okay, on this field, you are over the acceptable soil erosion tolerable loss. Okay, so on that field, if you are over T, tolerable loss, there are things you can do to reduce soil erosion. Almost always the best and easiest thing to do is to put in a waterway on that field. So in order to meet state standards on that field, you put in a waterway, or you can incorporate things like buffers, cover crops, reduce tillage, etc. But naturally, with more nutrient management plans comes more conservation practices, comes more grass waterways on our landscape. So that will be an added benefit to more nutrient management plans, for sure. And we always have cost sharing available for waterways in Marathon County. So if anyone has any friends that have some fields that need them, please send them to our office. We're always so excited to help folks put those in.
All right, any other questions? It'd be on the next agenda, another agenda, yeah. All right, so then, thank you, Kirsty.
Okay, so can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
So should I go ahead and work with Director Miskimmons to put this on
Yes.
the September agenda as a
Yes.
voting item?
Yeah, I would say so.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
All righty. Okay, item number 8. Next meeting, September 1st, 2026 at 3 p.m. and future agenda items. Committee members are asked to bring ideas for future discussion. Announcements, requests, correspondence. I'll just say, I think Supervisor Siepfeld would be disappointed since he's not here, if I didn't bring up that today kicks off the Wisconsin Valley Fair. I encourage everybody to go out and support these kids. I'll tell you firsthand how hard they work and what the parents have to do for that. You can say my granddaughter's just getting into it, so I get to watch her parents struggle now. And please take advantage of the County Employees Appreciation. I'll be there on Saturday for sure, so I think it's a great thing and a great opportunity to get into the fair. Item number 9, motion to adjourn. Supervisor Schoenborg with the motion. Do I have a second? Supervisor Lemmer with the second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.